The metallic taste flooded my mouth as I watched my stepmother's reflection in the hospital room window. She was adjusting something in my IV bag, her back to me, thinking I was still unconscious. The liquid entering my veins burned like fire, and the monitor beside me began to beep faster. She turned, startled, our eyes meeting in a moment of terrible clarity. The practiced concern on her face couldn't hide the flash of disappointment in her eyes when she realized I was awake. "Olivia, sweetheart," she said, voice honey-sweet as she quickly removed her hand from the IV line. "You're finally awake. Everyone's been so worried." "My name is Grace. I'm 28, and I'm a pharmaceutical researcher. This is the story of how I survived being targeted by my own family." My father appeared in the doorway, relief washing over his exhausted face. "Thank God the doctors weren't sure when you'd regain consciousness." He rushed to my side, oblivious to what I'd just witnessed. "Veronica hasn't left the hospital since they brought you in. She's been absolutely beside herself with worry." I tried to speak, but my throat felt scorched. The room tilted and spun as I struggled to focus. Behind my father, Veronica smoothly pocketed something small in glass, a vial, evidence. "She needs rest, Roger," Veronica said, placing a restraining hand on my father's arm. "And the doctor should check her now that she's conscious. Why don't you get some coffee while I call the nurse?" 3 months ago, my father had married Veronica after a whirlwind romance. A pediatric nurse, 15 years his junior, she'd charmed everyone with her seemingly perfect blend of sophistication and warmth. Everyone except me. From our first meeting, something felt wrong. Calculated smiles that never reached her eyes, an attentiveness that bordered on surveillance, a peculiar interest in my father's financial affairs. The incidents began shortly after she moved in, small at first, unexplained nausea after meals she prepared, dizziness that doctors dismissed as stress, strange metallic tastes in drinks only she had handled. Each time I raised concerns, my symptoms were conveniently gone by the time medical help arrived. "It's just the stress of adjusting to your new stepmother," my father would say, disappointment evident in his voice. "Veronica is trying so hard, Grace. You could make an effort, too." What my father didn't know, what Veronica hadn't counted on, was my background in pharmaceutical research. After the second incident, I began collecting samples, strands of my hair, fingernail clippings, even small amounts of the drinks and food that made me sick. I installed a microscopic camera in my bedroom and another in the kitchen. I started documenting everything. My best friend Mia, a laboratory technician, had agreed to run private analyses on my samples. "This is insane, Grace," she'd said, but the preliminary results changed her mind. "There are traces of heavy metals here, and something else I can't identify without more specialized equipment." I'd planned to show my father the evidence that weekend, but Veronica must have found my sample collection. The night before my planned confrontation, she'd served my favorite meal, a peace offering, she called it. Within hours, I was in the emergency room, my organs beginning to shut down from what doctors suspected was severe toxicity. Now, as my father left to get coffee, Veronica's mask slipped. She leaned close, her perfume suffocating. "You should have died last night," she whispered, checking to ensure no one was near the door. "It would have been peaceful. Now it will have to look like complications, a tragedy, but not unexpected given your condition." My heart monitor betrayed my fear, beeping rapidly as she adjusted something on my IV pole. The burning sensation in my arm intensified. "Nurse!" A sharp voice cut through the room. Dr. Russell, the attending physician, stood in the doorway, eyes narrowed. "What are you doing with that patient's medication?" Veronica's transformation was immediate and flawless. "Doctor, I was just checking the flow rate. It seemed irregular, and with my nursing background..." "You're not staff here, and you're not authorized to touch any medical equipment." Dr. Russell moved toward my fourth, examining it. "Please step away from the patient." Dr. Russell had been suspicious since my admission, noting the unusual combination of symptoms that didn't match typical poisoning cases. When my heart monitor alarm had alerted the nurse's station and he'd come to check, catching Veronica tampering with my IV, his suspicions were confirmed. My father returned, confusion etched on his face. "What's happening?" Mr. Richardson, we need to run some additional tests on your daughter, immediately. Dr. Russell's tone left no room for argument, and I'm afraid I must ask everyone to leave the room. But I'm family, Veronica protested, her hand finding my father's. And I'm a nurse. I should be here. That's precisely why you need to leave, Mrs. Richardson, Dr. Russell replied coldly. Security will escort you to the waiting area. As they led my father and Veronica out, I managed to rasp, period. My phone, in my bag. Dr. Russell retrieved it, placing it in my trembling hands. With fumbling fingers, I pulled up the text thread with Mia and typed, V tried again. Hospital. Bring results now. Within 20 minutes, Mia arrived, breathless and clutching a sealed envelope. Dr. Russell reviewed the lab reports, his expression darkening with each page. Miss Richardson, he said finally, these tests show significant levels of thallium and digitalis in your system. Both are extremely toxic and nearly undetectable without specific screening. This was not accidental. My stepmother, I whispered, my voice still raw. Check the fourth she was touching and test the vial in her coat pocket. Dr. Russell immediately called hospital security and notified the police. Within an hour, 2 detectives stood at my bedside while nurses replaced my entire IV system. We need to approach this carefully, Detective Simmons explained. Your stepmother is medically knowledgeable and clearly dangerous, but we need irrefutable evidence. Check my house, I rasped. Hidden cameras, kitchen and my bedroom, 3 weeks of footage. My father was kept away from Veronica while police obtained a warrant. The footage from my hidden cameras provided exactly what they needed. Clear video of Veronica adding substances to my food and drinks when no one was watching, searching my room, finding my sample collection, making phone calls discussing my father's will. When confronted with the evidence, Veronica's carefully constructed persona crumbled. The police discovered she had a history of similar behavior in 2 other states, with different names and different victims. Always older men with adult daughters who stood to inherit substantial estates. My father's devastation was complete. I brought her into our lives, he said, sitting beside my hospital bed after Veronica's arrest, his face aged years in days. I gave her access to you, to our home. I didn't believe you. She was convincing, I replied, my voice stronger now that the toxins were being flushed from my system. That's how predators like her survive. 6 months later, I sat in the courtroom as the judge sentenced Veronica Coleman, her real name, we learned, to 25 years without parole. My father and Mia flanked me, a united front as Veronica's mask finally shattered completely. "This isn't over!" she screamed as officers led her away. "Rich girls like you deserve what you get. There are others like me everywhere." Her threats echoed in the courtroom, but they no longer held power over me. The worst had happened, and I had survived. In the years since her conviction, I've channeled my experience into creating the Richardson Foundation for Medical Justice, identifying and supporting victims of medical abuse. Every case we uncover, every predator we help expose, is another victory against what Veronica tried to do. My father has become the Foundation's most dedicated volunteer, reviewing cases with a keen eye for the manipulation tactics he once missed. Our relationship, nearly destroyed by Veronica's influence, is now stronger than it ever was. The latest case reports just came in, my father said last week as we worked late at the Foundation office. The Harmon family in Seattle. The daughter will make a full recovery. They caught it in time because of the warning signs we published. I nodded, feeling the now familiar mixture of satisfaction and purpose. Veronica had tried to silence me permanently, but instead, she'd given me a voice that now protected others. "That's 17 lives saved this year," I said, updating our records. 17 families that won't go through what we did. Sometimes, as I work through new cases, I think about Veronica sitting in her prison cell. She thought she was destroying me, but she failed to understand a fundamental truth. Some people don't break under pressure. They transform. Every life we save is a reminder that her true legacy isn't harm, but the prevention of it. The Foundation continues to grow, our medical abuse identification protocols now implemented in hospitals across 3 states. What began as my desperate fight for survival has become a movement that saves lives and holds predators accountable. That's the thing about attempted harm. When it fails, it creates the most determined survivors. And survivors like me don't just heal. We make sure no one forgets what happened or who was responsible. Veronica wanted my inheritance. Instead, she gave me my purpose. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.